Hello everybody, my name is AJ, you're with the TMG channel, and I'm going to show you how to make a clump of mushrooms. Um, I've been making lots of monster videos lately, and my little deal with my channel is that I make monster videos pretty much all the time, and every now and then I sort of pay it forward, and I've made enough monster videos to make a video that sort of like breaks the mold. Sometimes it's monsterology channels where I talk about monster environments and things like that, and other times it's making terrain or dungeon tiles and things like that, and this is one of those days. So I had a mention from somebody that they liked the mushroom clumps that I make, um, and I thought, well, I make these to relax, and I find them pretty easy to make, but they look very impressive, and it's the techniques I use are very simple, so I thought I would show you how to do it. So this is Sculpey. Those of you who have seen my channel before know what it is. Sculpey is it's an oven bake sculpting material, and it starts off as a sort of a plasticky putty like this. It comes in little bits. It's quite soft. This is the original style Sculpey. You can also get firmer versions of it as well, but the original is fine. And it's very, very versatile, and I've come to love it. So you take a chunk of Sculpey, yay sized. I just broke off a chunk, literally a chunk. I didn't really care. And squish it together. You get a sort of a kneadable mass. And yeah, it's pretty much ready to go. Break off about half of it, like so, and take another chunk, another about, I say a quarter of, well, no, a third of that as well. Take that off, and you end up with a little ball like that, and squish it into an irregular shape, like a clump of mud or a puddle or something like that. And the reason why I make it an irregular shape is so that when you move it around, it's not a perfect circle, and when you combine it with other terrain, it makes an interesting footprint on the terrain board that so if you put this in an open environment, it breaks up the terrain in interesting ways. Put it on the flat surface, squish down the edges so that it's more flush with the table, but it's rounder on the top and flat, so it'll just sit flat. Oh man, my cutting mat is filthy. There you go. So that's my base for my fungus. Now the idea that this isn't dirt per se, it's either rock or muddy ground or something like that, and you're going to paint it to match what your dungeon tile looks like. So with my dungeon tiles, I'm making sort of caverns and stuff, which are kind of brown like that. So I match it with a brown paint. See how it just sort of blends right in there? Brown paint, brown base. You can even, well, yeah, I'll leave it up to you. Next, I'm going to decide on how many mushrooms I'm going to have on here. Now, the idea is I'm going to I'm going to start with the large objects on the base, and I'm going to base that on the stalks of the mushrooms. And I want 3 large ones. So I take this third that I chopped off, break it into 3 bits. Now, they can be irregular because no 2 mushrooms are exactly the same. And I'm going to taper them like so. Just a taper. And the idea is that that's going to increase the stability, and the cap of the mushroom is going to be sitting on top, and this is going to be sitting in the base of this. Now, the next tricky thing that I do is I squeeze out little corners, little bits of the base, squeeze it out with my fingers, and make little root tendrils that are going to blend in with the tendrils that I put on the base. See what I did there? Simple. Easy. Plonk that down. Lather, rinse, repeat with the others. Slightly different tendrils on each one. You can even have 2 tendrils sort of branching off on one side. Like so. Plonk. And last one. Now this one I'm going to try some sort of similar fungus clumped together, little bubbles of baby fungus. Now fungus are just flowers, right? So they grow from a central mass of mycelium, which are fibers which permeate the soil. They're very responsible for making the soil. Let me give you a little lesson in biology. You don't have soil without fungus, almost. What the mycelium do is they create little pockets that water sits in and nutrients gather in the soil, and plant roots make their way through the mycelium and sup from the little pockets of goodness that the mycelium have left for them. In large complicated forests, when you walk across the forest floor, your footprints stomp down on the mycelium then push up to receive any nutrients that you may have dropped in your passage past, and the forest as a whole, because the roots are disturbed by this, are aware of your passage through the trees. Amazing, eh? Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just extruding out this mycelium cord. Now Sculpey it gets very malleable when it gets warm, so if you work it in your fingers, it's gonna get gooey and be very easy to stretch out. So this is a very gentle process. And you're just making cords of it, an undetermined number. I literally just grab chunks of stuff, pull off bits, make some thick, make some thin. It doesn't matter. Irregular is a good look for mycelium. And as you work the piece, it's going to get, some bits are going to get squished and other bits are going to sort of overlap. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be laying this across the base, sort of in a striations outwards from these, as if it's a root tendril network across a sort of rocky outcropping that the fungus has grown up over. So what a fungus or a mushroom or a toadstool thingy is a flower, kind of. It's a spore release mechanism. So it's what the fungus uses when it's growing low on nutrients and things. The conditions are just right for seeding elsewhere, and it pops up this head and releases spores which catch the wind and travel a greater distance than the mycelium has the energy to travel itself. So it's the fungus looking for other environments that it can dominate. And fungus is not a plant and it's not an animal, it's a bit of both. It's one of the very first organisms that existed on the land. Came up out of the sea and created the soil that allowed the first plants to thrive. Once, a very long time ago, there was fungus that was several meters tall. If you travelled back long enough in time, that would be the weirdest forest you've ever seen. Kind of like Zangarmarsh in World of Warcraft. So there we go, we've almost got enough now. It's a very relaxing process, particularly if you're supping back some bourbon and cola at the same time. Normally I'll be watching a TV show like old episodes of Supernatural or the latest Game of Thrones or some such, or listening to a podcast. The latest episode of Nerdarchy or possibly Gaming Beast. Alright, okay, so now I'm going to produce the caps for these, and I'm going to go fairly stock standard and go for a sort of a bonnet cap. So when mushrooms form, they start off as a sort of a little bobble like that. I mean, you've all seen mushrooms in the supermarkets. They start off as a little thing like this, and then they basically grow up in a little cap like that, and then it sort of tears around the bottom as the cap opens up and swells, fills up with liquid, and poof. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be making this cap, and it's just a conical thing that I'm pushing my thumb down the bottom there, and squeezing with my top fingers to make like a little witch's hat, little wizard's hat. There we go. And as I say, it doesn't need to be. In fact, I'm actively avoiding making it very regular. So it looks like a little sorting hat, twisted around, little chunks out of it and stuff. You can even cut little chunks in it, and those are going to sit on top of there. Going to make a bigger one because I want this one to be sort of rounded, old, and I am actually going to cut some chunks in it. I think they'll look really good when they're painted. Also going to show you another little technique for making the ragged bits that sometimes you find in the bottom of a mushroom. This one I'm just sort of pushing inwards with my thumbs to make a disc with a concave inside bit and more fleshy outside bits, like that, like a pizza. And the last one is going to be tall and thin. Now I'm pushing over top of my finger so that the edge of it is just squeezing over top of my finger, and then I'm pinching and rolling my fingers to make it pull outwards like that. There you go. Okay, there's the caps. Now we're going to make some little baby ones, which are just round blobs. Start with a big one, a couple of small ones, lots of little bitty ones, just round blobs. What I did with one of these ones here is I just stuck the round bits to round caps, and then I poked lots of holes in the stem because some release their spores from the stem. This one here, I just dragged a sharp blade across the top of it and poked little holes to make interesting textures. And I built this sort of tubular arrangement. Some of them look like that too. This one here is a nice little dense array of different aged ones. And see those skirts there? I'm going to show you how I make those. Or bubbles. Okay, so I need 3. Take a moderate sized chunk, break into 3 bits. Just go flatten, squish, 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 tear it off your thumb, squish it out with your fingertips, pinch, 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 pinch. You can tear it a little bit, make it a little bit irregular, folded, like so. Squish. Pull them out a bit, make tears in the inside. Squish. Zip. Okay, those are ready to go. And now I'm going to make a sort of a fan fungus. And all I'm going to do is make a reasonably thick thread, tear it into bits, sticking them together as I go. At the base, like that. And I'm just going to pinch the end. Like that. Pinch the end. And leave that be. make another smaller version of that. Like so. Put them together like that. It's ready to go. And I'm going to make some little spiky things, just for interesting textures and stuff to paint. And these are literally just conical sharp points, like that, like a fang. In fact, let's make it really interesting, designing on the fly, and make it an actual jaw of some big creature. So these are actually teeth now. So we've got two big incisors, fangs, little side teeth there, and we're going to have some cuspid, chompy other teeth like so. Alright, and this becomes our jaw. Doesn't have to be complicated. It's going to be buried in the base here. And I'm going to put the fungus around it. Grab a sculpting tool of some kind, or a pen. Actually, let's just use something readily available to everybody. A paintbrush. I'm going to use the end of the paintbrush. Measure up where this is going to be, and let's have it jutting out the side here. So I line up, push a hole, there we go. Shove the jaw in there. Oh, wait a minute. Let's put the teeth in first. Push holes in there. Push, push. Two in the front. Cuspid, longer. Put the teeth in. Wait, how many holes do I need more holes. More holes. And cuspid teeth. Okay, now shove that into the base. Voila. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, now we get the mycelium that we made, and we're going to just put it willy-nilly all over the place like wriggly worm tendril, root tendril thingies all over us. And they don't have to all come up to the middle, because the middle is going to be largely obscured by these. So we're really worrying about the side of the base. You want to have them sort of look like veins, and they can grow over top of things, like they're going to be growing over this jaw here. When you're painting this piece, these large things here only represent a part of it, so they're going to be the main texture of the mycelium, but you're also going to be painting the fine texture of as if it's a web work. I mean, you've all seen mold and stuff on your food and things, you know exactly how it grows, what it looks like. And this is exactly what this is doing. Imagine it's gotten so big that it grows these great big cords of stuff. It's overlapping like veins, searching for food. Plonk, plonk, plonk. I know it's a little hard to see exactly what I'm doing, but you get the general idea. It's really hard to work on this and have a very good camera view at the same time. I'm liking this so far. So it doesn't take a lot to really carpet this thing. And a lot of overlapping adds for an interesting texture. More complicated paint job, to be sure, but what are you going to do? Nice little bit. Okay, next we're going to put these bases on, these stalks, these stems, extend out these little bits a little bit more. Plonk that one right in the jaw. And these ones are going to be growing right alongside. And notice how the base of them just blends into that mat of tendrils at the bottom. This one's going to be over the side a little bit. Okay, now we're going to grab our little hoods that we made, shove them over top of the stalk, just like that. Stick it on, squeeze it at the top, so it's sticking out a bit, like a little bonnet, a little raggedy skirt. Last one. Oh, that was good. Tall one, stick it on there, shove. Next. And flat one. And I'm pressing these together a little bit. Make a little jointed up section there. Doesn't have to be too obvious. It'll increase the strength of all of them, so that when they're baking in the oven they won't fall apart. And you can get anything, a toothpick. Have we got a toothpick? Ah, there we go. And just redraw that line there. So you join them together, but it looks like they're separate. There we go. So as you can see, it's looking pretty complicated already. Right? Yeah, very mushroomy. Notice how the irregularity really adds to the character of the piece, and it makes it so much more interesting to paint. Alright, next we're going to stick our little fan on down the end here. This is another mushroom species which is grown with the others, and it's almost like a coral, right? And open up those fans a little bit, make it interesting, curl them over, stick them together. Give them a little bit of twist. Now we're going to get our blobs, shove them in the base, willy-nilly, wherever it makes artistic sense to you. Use it to obscure uninteresting bits or accentuate other bits to make an irregular edge. But this piece has gotten pretty busy. Even put one on the tooth. Little blobs. Happy little blobs. Yeah. Can make a happy little blob here. Happy clouds. Bob Ross. What a legend. There we go. In the baking process, maybe something you haven't stuck on particularly well falls off. Don't worry about it. It was meant to be. Nobody knew it was there in the first place. No one will miss it. Okay, and that is ready to go. How long was that? Well, about almost half an hour. Under half an hour. There you go. Nice and complicated clump of mushrooms with some ancient beastie's jaw. Nice. Now you put that in the oven, preheat the oven to 130 degrees centigrade, or I've said this so many times, 275 degrees Fahrenheit. This piece here will require about 8 to 10 minutes. Don't overbake it too much, although it's pretty tolerant, but certainly don't underbake it, because the pieces will, particularly these thin flimsy bits here, will break off. And it'll be ready to paint pretty much as soon as it cools. And all you need to do is add standard modeling paints to this. You could also use acrylics, student style acrylics, if you wanted to. I like standard miniature paints because they've got a much better coverage, and they're much brighter colors, better blends. And then just a light matte varnish, anti-shine varnish over top of that, and it'll be good until bits of it break and fall off. And if you ever stand on one of these in the dead of night, you'll hear all about it, particularly if you've actually built fangs into it like an idiot. Okay, that's it. Hope you enjoyed. I certainly enjoy bringing this sort of content to you. If you enjoy that sort of thing, let me know in the comment section down below and share with your friends. See you later.